Hello and welcome to the NBA Daily for January 14th, 2025. Coming up, the Grizzlies and Rockets gave us another banger. The Warriors are really bad, and I don't even know if they should make a trade. And the Knicks lost to our Pistons. How about that? Good morning, everybody. Good morning, S. We're going to dig into the Pistons being 2 games over 500 later on in the show with our guy, Hunter Patterson. Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you really got me thinking about the Pistons in our big preview before the season, and you've been on them this entire time. This is like a victory lap show for you, and it's amazing. They just went 2 games over 500. It's not like they're like first place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they are just out of the playoffs. They are just out of the top 6, which I think is very compelling. They're a fun team. They had a great game tonight, which we'll get to later on. But we got to start. I mean, I think the Houston Rockets right now probably feel like they own the Memphis Grizzlies. They pick up their 3rd win of the season against the Grizzlies. They're now 3-0 in the season. 120-118 is a close game. Yeah. The Rockets had to mount a comeback late. Jalen Green had a ridiculous game, putting up 42 points, and he almost had, if he had finished this dunk on Zach Edey, it would have been the dunk of the year.
Yes.
And instead, Edey gets called for a foul on something that, I don't know, in my opinion, you just don't call those, or it's an offensive foul. But either way, another great game for the Rockets where they just show how tough they are, man. They just do not stop coming.
Yeah, they're incredible defensively. And I loved what Thompson did against Ja Morant in that 4th quarter, making life hell for him. Like the point of attack defense, he was just taking on the assignment one-on-one. And so I thought that he had such a good game to mount that comeback. Like their defensive effort was so important. Him in the dunker spot, what he was able to do offensively too. Like he connects together so many things for that Rockets team. You think about the short roll area where Şengün is so good. And so Şengün will catch it in the short roll, throw it up to Amen. Amen's there for the lob. Defensively, he's kind of quarterbacking their defense at the point of attack. So like he glues together so many things that they want to do. I want to highlight Jalen Green though, because I feel like people are pretty hard on Jalen Green, right? We could agree on that. Right? Like
I agree.
Yeah, and so this is a guy that has tons of expectations because he's a high lottery pick, has had months where he's looked exactly like the star that people thought he would. March and April, Jalen Green is well known in Rockets territory, but he's doing it right now on a very good team. And he's been doing it for the last 10, 15 games. He's been putting together a lot of great games. I think he's been great as a decision maker, selecting his spots, picking and choosing when he wants to be a scorer versus a playmaker. All of this is coming together for him on a good team. And so I feel like we need to shout him out when he is playing well, because he's a guy who gets dogged on a little bit too much when it comes to the Rockets and what potential they have to be good in the playoffs and whatnot.
Yeah, and his defense gets overlooked. Yeah, the guy makes plays defensively, whether it's, getting a steal, getting a deflection, blocking shots, which actually is one of the things that he's sneakily good at. But speaking of Thompson, 19 points, 13 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 5 blocks. That guy is a Swiss Army knife, yes. And we were also watching Knicks and Pistons. We were talking about his brother, Asar. And I mentioned Asar might be able to be like a super powered Josh Hart, right? More athletic, bigger, longer, faster, maybe more skilled. I don't know. But just, could he do that? And I look at him, and it's like, well, I don't know. Is he Andre Kirilenko without a jump shot? He just opens up so much stuff for them. And you mentioned that little lob that Şengün likes to throw out of the short roll when Amen is in the dunker spot. They do that in crunch time.
Yeah. Şengün almost lost it. That turnover, right? Yeah.
So, that has become like a nice go-to little bread and butter thing for them. If he's not a guy that has to shoot the above the break 3, right?
No.
But if he ever becomes, if he can be Lou Dort from the corners,
right, and
just let him fly, hit him at 35 to 36%. And this guy all of a sudden becomes even more dangerous. The numbers he's putting up with no jumper when they're packing the paint every time he has the ball, it's super impressive to me. for a young guy, especially to not, he gets knocked down, he gets right back up. I don't know, man, that team is just full of dogs. And then, Fred VanVleet late in this game, I keep saying that the Houston Rockets offense in crunch time,
hit a big shot.
It seems to be, hey, somebody throw the ball to VanVleet with about 2 seconds left on the clock, and he's going to throw up a moonshot, and he hits it in this game.
Yeah.
But he's taken the third most shots this season with less than 4 seconds left on the shot clock. And he's not their number one option, which is usually what you expect. Jason Tatum leads the league in that. But the thing about this team, we talk about the youth, and we talked with Kelly Iko last week about Şengün being their best player. And I think Jalen Green is second. But man, Fred VanVleet's their most important player.
Yeah, I mean, they need a table setter. He had 9 assists tonight just off of those like short roll actions that I mentioned with Şengün. And I think that like him being I've covered Fred for basically his entire career now, from Toronto to Houston, watching him grow as a guy who was first off ball, catch and shoot guy, working next to Kyle Lowry, and then really learning from Kyle how to be a ball handler and playmaker, developing that to the point where he's like leading and table setting for a really, really good Rockets team. It's funny because that number you put out, the grenade number of him kind of having to kill these possessions at the end for the Rockets, that is eerily similar to his last year with the Raptors, where their offense, their half-court offense was just so bad that they had to pass it to VanVleet at the end. And like his field goal percentage suffers because of it, but his importance is unquestionable to this Rockets team and what they do, especially as a playmaker.
Yeah, he's only shooting like 28% on those shots. I mean, it's tough. It's literally
hard, man. Especially at that
potato
size. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's always having to take a step back or just shoot, like I said, a moonshot over some guy that's 6'7". The Warriors somehow last night, they lost to your Raptors. I'm thinking, let's do a deep dive on what the Raptors. No. We're not.
Hey, look, Chris Boucher. We could do 9 minutes on Chris Boucher right now, who scored 17 of his 18 points in the fourth quarter. That would be my main Raptors. The Raptors
they're doing a little bit of a pump and dump with Chris Boucher's trade value. I think
first round pick. The
Warriors made it easy, right? Like so, no Draymond for the Warriors last night, but
no Jonathan Kuminga either.
No Kuminga, right? But still, the Raptors are so sad. They're not even trying to win games, and so for the Warriors to lose this, and they've been struggling for a while now.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm picking up on some. I'm not going to say loser vibes, but there's some, I would say, non-winning vibes around the team. Draymond Green came out in an interview the other day, and he talked about, the need to think about the future and this team being flexible.
Yeah.
And then post-game, after the Raptors, Steph kind of says the same thing, man. And these aren't the champions I'm used to listening to.
Yeah, Steph said that, prioritizing the future after us is just as important. Leaving the organization.
Does he own part of the team?
Yeah.
And I don't
know. Does he have rackets in stock? What's going on? Like, I don't understand that either. And for what it's worth, these guys are hyper competitive dudes. Like we've seen in the past, Steph and Draymond are insane competitors. Same with Clay, right? And so the fact that it just doesn't, it feels like they're mailing it in at this point. Mailing it in might not be the right word, but it feels like it,
Well, it's a weird vibe to hear from them because these guys are killers. I mean, Steph Curry literally put the world to sleep over the summer. And, we came into the season, I had these very high expectations that
you did
clearly were way off base. But, I thought with the start that they had, this was a team that was going to be maybe they're looking to improve at the deadline. And I'm guessing that they are. But these comments kind of give me a little bit of pause, man. I'm just not used to hearing Steph Curry, think about the 2 timeline stuff. I mean, he just said a few days ago, it seems, on a podcast with Andre Iguodala that the 2 timelines thing was garbage. So I don't know. Maybe this is them kind of backpedaling a little bit from those.
This is reverse psychology. This is like, we know the Warriors are not going to make a move. So we're going to say, hey, you know what? It's not a big deal to us. No problem. We understand. I don't know, man.
They're using the media to negotiate a little bit here where they're just saying, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. We'll worry about the future.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think for what it's worth, I don't know if a trade or 2 saves this Warriors team this season. They've been 25th in offense over the last 10 games. Steph does not have any help. And I know Kuminga is gone, no Draymond in this one, but like Schroeder, that trade has not necessarily worked out in their favor. He's working in a shoebox in terms of spacing and just it hasn't worked out. It really does not look good for the Warriors outside of Steph Curry. And he's also dealing with this knee tendonitis thing, which is looming over all of this. So you're looking at a roster that has a clear flaw outside of Steph on the offensive end to create any sort of shot. And then you're looking at a team that defensively without Draymond craters. So it just, they're relying on these two old guys.
Well, the wild thing is that their offense craters too without Draymond, especially when Steph's not out there. They lack organization, right? But they're not just one guy away in a trade. This isn't like trade for Jimmy Butler and all of a sudden they're
or trade for Levine and you're good, right?
Yeah, because every time you try to do a trade with them, you start to realize that Andrew Wiggins might have to go out.
Right. Yeah.
And that guy, I mean, look, has he been the Wiggins of the title season from a couple years ago? Definitely not.
No,
but he's
been really important to them. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. On some nights, he's the second best player on the court. So, they're a team to watch. But I think that the question they've got to answer is, are we good enough to bother making a trade that's for this season? And maybe they need to be exploring things that are for next year.
Let me ask you a quick question, okay? How long do you think Steph Curry is going to play? How much longer?
This is a tough one for me to answer because there is so much money involved. And Steph Curry will get a fat paycheck from an NBA team as long as he wants one because he's Steph Curry, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, I'm surprised LeBron is still playing because this is unprecedented. But he's still playing at such a high level. LeBron seems to think he's got 3 or 4 more years at this level. I don't have any reason to doubt him. And Steph, when he's healthy, is still playing at extremely high level. So I don't know. I tend to think Steph is probably going to play till he's 40 just because why not? We always talk.
Well, these
talk
guys
about
are also
science.
they're crazy competitive. They don't want to walk away from the game without giving it their all. But their organizations, their front offices also got to do their part.
Yeah,
just
not
saying,
doing a great job. Yeah, the Lakers also looked bad last night. And Wemby didn't even have that great of a game. He did have a pretty good game, but
another old guy, Chris Paul, was carving him up.
He did look good. Yeah. Maybe the Lakers could trade for Chris Paul. Would that solve their problems? I don't know. Before we go to talk to Hunter after the break, I want to talk a little bit about the Knicks losing to the Pistons on the second night of a back-to-back. They got this big win Sunday against the Bucks. Big, like 34 points, which was a nice bounce back after losing to the Thunder. But they have to be extremely disappointed to have dropped this game against the Pistons. Now, look, this is not the Pistons of the last 5 or 6 years. They are not a sad team anymore. They're a tough team, especially here lately. But this is a team that the Knicks are supposed to beat. And even on a back-to-back, they had all their guys. I was a little bit lost that they were struggling so much tonight.
Yeah, they were struggling defensively. There were tons of miscues at the end of the game where they left Malik Beasley wide open 2 times, and it caused just like way too many breakdowns on the defensive end. Jalen Brunson was obviously great. Karl Anthony Towns was good. He has that thumb issue that popped up during the game. We'll see how serious that is. But Josh Hart had an interesting quote after the game where he said that, like, we're not where we want to be and we're halfway through the season. So if we have expectations of being a better team, we need to solve those mistakes. And he's had a few quotes here over the last week about inconsistent play, about kind of leaving your ego at the door. And I wonder what that means. Like, what is he referring to? Who is he talking about in this situation? Is there an ego in that locker room? I'm not sure. This is just speculation at this point, but just interesting because it does feel like the Knicks are a bit uneven right now. That huge loss to the Thunder, the win against the Bucks, and now a disappointing loss against the Pistons. And you talked about like the zone. We talk about it with Hunter about the zone defense and how much they're seeing that more often and the switching. And it feels like the scout is out a little bit on how to beat this team. So it's just interesting to see like what the next 41 games are going to be for this next team.
Yeah, they're struggling a little bit against non-conventional defense. So, something that feels like they can figure it out. I don't know. They've got the players for it. Guys, stick around after the break. We have Hunter Patterson on to talk about the Pistons. They're the turnaround that they've gone through and Cade Cunningham's leap that he's making this season. The Detroit Pistons are now 2 games over 500.
That's
21 and 19 after a 124-119 win.
That's right.
Over the Knicks at MSG. S, you've been on this since the preseason. You've been singing Cade's praises. And we've got our guy, Hunter Patterson, our new beat writer that covers the Detroit Pistons on the show. He's live at MSG. Looks great on camera. Welcome to the show. Welcome to The Athletic. Really good to have you. Big fan of your work. I got to start with just the Pistons overall. Again, 21 and 19, 2 games over 500. The first time they've won 21 games in 6 seasons. This is the latest in the season that they've been above 500. And how long, S?
Oh, man, 2017, 2018. Wow.
Been a while, Hunter. Yeah. I'm going to give you all the credit. You've rubbed off. Just good luck. What's the secret to their success, man? I mean, they've been a fun story.
Yeah, I think this is a really close-knit group. The average age, I was looking at it last night, is about a little bit over 24. The oldest person on this team is 32, and Tim Hardaway Jr., who's been playing really well lately. So yeah. I think it's just a close-knit group, and they seem to all really genuinely care about each other. So I think their success has a lot to do with their bond, even just away from basketball.
Yeah.
Man, I want to ask you about the defense. And I know that this has been a huge point for JB Bickerstaff. And like 18th in defense might not jump out to you as a success here, but after being a bottom 5 defense for 5 straight seasons, they've turned it around in a major way. What do you think that's for? Because they did a great job against the Knicks tonight. I mean, I know Jalen Brunson and Cade Cunningham went back and forth, but for the most part, they posed some problems for the Knicks. So what did they do defensively this season that's been such a success for them?
I think they really just bought into kind of the effort that JB Bickerstaff is requiring everyone on the floor to have if they want to play. So he's earlier in the season was a little bit more strict, I guess, with his rotations. If there was a guy who didn't rotate over, right, he had no problem bringing in Isaiah Stewart, for example, for Jalen Duren if he missed an assignment or was in drop coverage on a stretch 5 or someone who could shoot. So he's had a short leash defensively, I would say. And then he's kind of given them a little bit more rope as time has gone on to make mistakes and learn through them. Yeah. And it seems like they're better for it so far.
Well, I mean, look, he's also coaching them on defense because in this game against the Knicks, one of the ways that they threw the Knicks off was they switched into a zone.
Yeah.
And I was digging through my memory banks from last season, and I'll be the first to admit, you don't have to watch a lot of Pistons games when you do this job. You wind up seeing the Pistons occasionally when they played good teams, but you don't have to watch them very much. But I couldn't remember them slipping into a zone like that very often. And you see this team aggressively trapping and switch. I mean, I just think that they're just more active in general. And, as you said, 18th is nothing to really like tout, but they've been better here the last few weeks. Even I think you could say like maybe since December 1st, maybe Hunter, like there's been a marked turnaround in the way that they're defending. I don't know if you can point your finger at any one thing
eighth in the last 10 games. I just looked
there. You
up.
go. Yeah. So outside of just, I think like you mentioned, back to your point, Hunter, these guys, they're bought in collectively. And I gotta say, I gotta tip my cap to the guy that I think is honestly, he's showing to be a pretty good leader on the team. I think Cade Cunningham, not only has he grown as a player and playmaker, but he's got these guys following him, I think following his lead. And it's on the defensive end where he's been as disruptive as a playmaker as he has been on the offensive end.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's gotten a lot of attention this year for what he's done offensively, the way he scores, the assist numbers, things like that. But his defense, there are possessions where he will fly around. He'll be pretty good on the point of attack. He'll be able to rotate, help the helper in certain situations. So I think Cade, he hasn't really gotten enough attention on his defense because he's been so just comfortable and in a rhythm offensively. But like you said, I think Dave, he's been really good defensively as well.
so much of the conversation around Cade has been context, like on-court context and spacing, especially over the last couple of years. It's like, get Cade the amount of help that he needs, the shooting that he needs to be able to really thrive. And we're seeing that this season with a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr., with Malik Beasley, the scoring load of a guy like Tobias Harris. And Malik was awesome tonight too. I mean, he's been great all season, but like, what is the vibes of those older guys coming in and really, I guess, being leaders, but also helping on the court offensively?
Yeah, I think we were talking about it a little bit before we started, but that might have been since we started. It's been a long few days here getting in New York, but they are just such a young team, and Tim being the oldest person on the team, he's still a young person, like in general. So I think he does have a lot of NBA experience, though. He's had some vets that he's talked to me about as far as Carmelo, Tyson Chandler, J.R. Smith. He's had some pretty eventful, I would say, vets, if you will. And so he's just kind of passing that knowledge down to the younger guys on this team. And then Malik is just his own kind of energy for the team.
You could tell on the court. You could tell on the court, right?
Yeah, he can't wait to shimmy as soon as he hits a three. So that's like the first thing on his mind. But he said that there was a fan courtside who he was kind of going back and forth with. And the fan said that he hit 4 threes in the first quarter and hadn't done anything since. And he said that he told the fan, watch this, and then he hit the 2 threes back to back. So that's the type of confidence he has.
At some point, fans are going to realize that these NBA guys are actual sickos and that you are only playing into their hands if you just make them mad. Even Malik Beasley, who is not somebody you would think of having the ability to flip the switch, but I don't know, man. That guy is kind of automatic right now. We got to just swing it looking forward a little bit. Okay, this is a team that's battling for the playoffs, and I think they've got a shot at that 6th seed. I think that 6th seed is not set yet. Look, the Pacers have looked good, and I think they're moving up, but the Bucks have not looked good. The Sixers can't get healthy. Embiid has got this foot issue now. I mean, this is a team that should be pushing to make the top 6.
Yeah.
What do they have to do between now and, I could say the trade deadline.
The trade deadline. Let's bring it up.
Right, let's start with the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I was going to say now and the end of the season, but let's just say, what do they need to do between now and the trade deadline to improve to try to actually be in that top 6?
Yeah, I think they were able to kind of stagger minutes between Jaden Ivey and Cade. So they had someone they felt really comfortable with as far as a primary ball handler. Right. Someone who could get their own shots and create for others as well. So obviously now with Jaden breaking his fibula, there's a void there. Marcus Sasser had a nice game tonight and was able to come in and provide some good spot minutes when Cade was out. But I think that the thing that they should focus on now that Jaden is out is having someone who can be just a second ball handler when Cade's not in the game. If Cade is getting blitzed how he was tonight, even though he still worked around those issues. So just maybe someone who can come off the bench. I don't necessarily have a name, but just I've seen people say Malcolm Brogdon maybe, since he's a veteran, pretty sure-handed with the ball, but he does have injury issues as well. So maybe a veteran who doesn't need to do too much other than just control pace and get guys in their spots.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you, man. Should they get in on Bradley Beal?
I wouldn't, to be honest. Like I've seen just the potential, like him coming to Detroit, but Brad is another person who it sucks for him, but he just seems to have like terrible injury luck. Yeah, obviously a massive contract, and he's a great scorer. I don't really think too highly of him defensively, but. I don't know. I'm just not really too confident in Brad at this point in his career.
Do you think they should, especially with where they are at standing wise, do you think they will be more aggressive to maybe go out and make an addition, or do you think they'll be confident and kind of just rolling with what they have?
I think the better Cade is kind of looking on a daily basis, the more Trajan may feel a little bit of pressure to try to surround him with people as soon as possible. Right. Given Cade is only 23, so he's not even in his prime yet. But I think the better Cade continues to look, the more pressure Trajan may have to try to make something happen.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, man, this team, they're fun to watch. I think that's a win in and of itself. You don't know the outcome before you turn on a Pistons
game. And you also
now.
know what you have now in Cade, right? Like, all-star level player, right?
I was wrong. I was wrong. He's shown me wrong all season long. Hunter Patterson showing us right. Appreciate you. Welcome to The Athletic again. Welcome to the NBA Daily. Go and read him over at The Athletic. That's going to do it for today's show, folks. Thank you guys for tuning in. For Hunter and Es Baraheni, I'm Dave DuFour, and this is the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.